So when we think of Jesus's parables, we think they're nice stories about be nice and hard work and morals and ethic. But what we fail to realize almost universally is that these are prophetic documents and they are all pointing toward one specific thing, and that is the kingdom of heaven. And that kingdom of heaven is pointing to a specific time. And that time is the time between the transition of the old covenant into the new covenant. And so when we look at those parables side by side, they tell us a story that we've never seen before. And so I'm going to point that out in this video. But there's one specific parable. Most of his parables are pointing to that specific time between those two covenants. But there's one that specifically points to the nature of that kingdom. The nature of that kingdom. And when you understand that one specific parable, it completely changes the paradigm. And we're going to look at that in this video. So the first parable that we're going to look at 5 total. And the first one that we're going to look at is the parable about the tares. And there's something here. You have to catch the power of these parables, because these red letters will completely change how you understand the Bible when you look at what Jesus is teaching in these parables. They are extremely powerful. So let's look at this parable about the tares. And it says right here in Matthew 13, 24 through 30, Jesus presented another parable to them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and left. And when the wheat sprouted up and produced grain, then the weeds also became evident. And the slaves of the landowner came and said to him, Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have weeds? And he said to them, An enemy has done this. The slave said unto him, Do you want us to go and gather them up? Now, I want you to understand what Jesus has just said right here, because I'm going to be doing another video on this specifically. He said there was tares growing amongst the wheat. And the problem with that is these tares almost look identical to the wheat. It's hard to tell them apart. So what the lesson Jesus is teaching here is that there are people who are Christian, that look like Christian, who have all the mannerisms, they have all the actions of a Christian, but they do not have the heart of Jesus Christ. And it's hard to tell them apart from the true Christians. This is the lesson that Jesus is teaching his disciples, because there are going to be people who come along and claim to be true worshipers of Jesus Christ, and they're not. They're going to infiltrate the kingdom, and he is warning them against it. So keep that in mind. But he said, no, while you are gathering up the weeds, you may uproot the wheat with them. Allow both to grow until the harvest. And at the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, first gather up the weeds and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather up the wheat into my barn. Now, I want you to understand here, and we're going to look at it a little bit more here in a second. But listen to what he just told his disciples. He said, when he appears, when the Son of Man appears, he's going to send the reapers. And what are they going to gather? They're going to gather the fake Christians out, the fake followers of Jesus Christ first, and bind them and bundle them and burn them. Now, what are we taught universally? The rapture. When Jesus comes, the church is going to be airlifted out of here, and all the bad people left. Well, according to this parable, who does he gather first? The tares, and bundle them and burn them. Now, I want you to watch this. This is that next level in understanding. This parallel passage, the same parallel passage in Luke it's in Matthew, is in Luke. But here's what it says in Luke after it tells about this parable of the tares. It says, it was the same as happened in the days of Lot. They were eating, they were drinking, they were buying, they were selling, they were planting, and they were building. But on the day that Lot left Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. It will be just the same on the day that the Son of Man is revealed. It will be just the same on the day that the Son of Man is revealed. He shows up, devastation happens that day. That's what Jesus said. on that day, the one on the housetop and his goods in the house must not go down to take them out. And likewise, the one in the field must not turn back. Remember Lot's wife who turned back. Do not turn back. Now, what is he describing? He is describing something that it's an emergency situation. It is so urgent that you don't even need to look back. You don't even need to grab your coat out of the house. You need to flee. When? When the Son of Man is revealed. Why is that? Whoever strives to save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life will keep it. I tell you, on that night, there will be two in the bed. One will be taken, the other left. There will be two women grinding at the same place. One will be taken and the other left. Two men will be in the field. One will be taken and the other left. And responding, watch this, they said to him, "Where, Lord?" Who said that? This was his disciples. "Where, Lord?" And he said to them, "Where the body is, there the vultures will be gathered together." Where the body is, there the vultures will be gathered together. We're talking about devastation and loss of life. We're talking about bodies as he describes it. Not my words, Jesus' words. Bodies that the vultures are out there consuming. That's where. So here's the thing, and this is something that when it comes down to truth, we have to be willing to accept the truth. It's just that simple. It's impossible to go forward as a Christian and grow in strength spiritually when we say we are willing to absolutely just reject the truth. Listen to what he is saying. Not my words. This is Jesus. This is the red letters. This is Jesus' teaching. The ones that are taken away, unlike what we are taught, raptured out of here and missed all the devastation, they are bundled and burned. So let's look at the second parable, the parable of the net, Matthew 47 through 50. Again, the kingdom of heaven, we're talking about the kingdom of heaven. We're talking about the transition between the old covenant into the new covenant. This is what's being described in these parables. And all of them are pointing at the same thing in different ways. Jesus is explaining the exact same event in different ways. The transition between the old covenant and the new. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a dragnet that was cast into the sea and gathered fish of every kind. And when it was filled, they pulled it to the beach, and they sat down and gathered the good fish into the containers, but the bad fish threw away. So it will be at the end of this age. So it will be at the end of this age. So it will be at the end of the old covenant when we transition into the new covenant. This is what Jesus is saying. So it will be at the end of this age. The angels will come forth and remove the wicked from among the righteous. They will remove the wicked from among the righteous. They're not gathering the righteous. They're gathering the wicked. And they will throw them in the furnace of fire. In that place, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Have you understood these things? Is what Jesus asked his disciples. Why? Because this is important for them to understand so that they don't get caught up in it. Because unlike what we are taught, they're not going to be airlifted out of here. You are going to be here when these events are happening. If not, what's the point of the warning? Here I am going step by step to ensure parable after parable, explaining the exact same thing to his disciples, yet it's not going to apply to you. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. They said to him, yes, we understand. So let's look at the parable of the wedding banquet. And this is in Matthew 21 through 14. Jesus spoke to them again in parables, saying, the kingdom of heaven, the transition, the beginning or the establishment of the kingdom is like a man that held a wedding banquet for his son, and he sent his slaves to call those who were invited to the wedding feast, and they were unwilling to come. Now, I'm doing, again, I mentioned before that I'm doing a book. It's actually released now. You'll probably find the link to that in the description. But understanding what is going on in this wedding, the way weddings worked in the first century Judaism, helps you to understand this parable. this specific parable. Many things that Jesus taught can be understood just by understanding how the wedding feast worked. What Joseph did with Mary, that explains why that whole situation, it explains it. Understanding how weddings worked. But those they were unwilling to come, again, he sent his slaves saying, tell those who were invited, you got an invitation. And his slaves are going to those who have accepted the invitation. You accepted it or you rejected it. These have accepted it. And that understanding helps you understand this better. Behold, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and my fattened cattle are all butchered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding feast. Come, it's ready. You guys were invited. You accepted the invitation, and now it is here, and you haven't came. It's a slap in the face to the host to accept the invitation, and then when everything is ready, you don't show up. But they paid no attention and went their separate ways, and one to his own farm, another to his business, and the rest seized his slaves and threatened them abusively, and they killed them. Now the king was angry, and he sent his armies and destroyed those murderers and set their city on fire. The king was upset that he sent out his invitation to those who were bidden. They did not come to the wedding after they have accepted the invitation. He sent his army and destroyed those murderers and burned their cities. Well, what is he talking about? He's talking about 70 AD. He is talking about something that happened in 70 AD, the exact same thing that Jesus told the Pharisees would happen, the exact same thing he told his disciples that would happen in Matthew chapter 24, the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. Same event. He is saying that the Father sent his army. So he is calling the Roman army his army, because the Roman army is who destroyed Jerusalem. Then he said to his slaves, the wedding feast is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy. So go to the main road, invite whomever you will find there to the wedding feast. Those slaves went out into the streets and gathered together all whom they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was filled with dinner guests. Those went out into the streets. Again, remember what we're talking about. Do not lose focus of what we're talking about. We're talking about the kingdom of heaven. The parable started with the kingdom of heaven. He went into the streets and gathered everybody they found. At the destruction of those who were bidden to the wedding, they didn't come. He found everybody he could find and said, come into the wedding. The covenant was open to Gentiles. It was now open to the Gentiles. They were invited to the wedding, to the Messiah, the new covenant. But when the king came in to look over the dinner guests, he saw a man there who was not dressed in wedding clothes. What was the wedding clothes? The white garments. Remember in Revelation, all those who were being married, the new covenant being married to the Messiah, were given white robes. He was not dressed in wedding clothes. And he said to him, friend, how did you get in here without wedding clothes? And the man was speechless. Then the king said to his servants, tie his hands and feet and throw him into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth in that place. For many are called, but few are chosen. Many are called. The Great Commission went out to everybody, but few of those everybody are chosen. It was an invitation to everybody, but few are chosen. Now, I want to show you something. Let's look at this in more detail. The cast, who is the king? God the Father. The Son, Jesus. The wedding is the new covenant, the marriage of Christ to his church. Because all through the old covenant, it was a marital relationship. It was God and his bride, the Jewish covenant, the Jews. Well, this new covenant is the bride, the church, and the Messiah, Jesus, the Son. And again, I can tell you, it is eye-opening to understand how weddings work with the Son and the Father and the wedding. It opens up scriptures in ways you've never seen before. because we overlook things. It's easy to overlook things when we don't know what we're looking for. The servants sent to call the invited guests, the prophets, and also Jesus' disciples. He sent them out. He sent them out. The prophets all throughout the Old Testament was letting the Jews know that there was a new covenant coming. There was going to be a new covenant. The invited guests who refused, the religious leaders of Israel, the scribes, the Pharisees, the Jewish nation, everybody under that covenant. Those who killed the servants, Israel killing the prophets, Jesus catalogs in Matthew 23 and 29 through 36. The king's armies destroyed the city. The Roman army destroying Jerusalem in 70 AD, which we just talked about. The new guests from the highways, the Gentiles, the new covenant church gathered from all nations. All nations. The guests without the wedding garment, those who claimed to be in the kingdom but were not truly converted, cast them out into outer darkness, cast them outside of the body of Christ, outside the body of Christ, outside of the kingdom. Everything outside is in outer darkness. There is only light in the body of Christ. That's why it says up here, for the king, it says, tie their hands and feet and throw them into outer darkness, outside. Everything outside of the wedding, outside of the covenant, outside of the body of Christ was in outer darkness. So for those who, I realize there may be people who don't understand or don't know what 70 AD is. You can Google this because this is what I did. Just Google it. I just went in and Googled it. And this is the question I asked Google. I just asked Google, you know what, Mr. Google, tell me this. What happened in 70 AD? I just said, tell me what happened in 70 AD. In 70 AD, the Roman army under General Titus besieged and destroyed Jerusalem, ending the First Jewish-Roman War. Key aspects include destruction of the Second Temple, the Herodian Temple, mass casualties. What did the king do? He sent his army, the Roman army, and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. You see the connection? The Roman siege, Roman troops surrounded Jerusalem in April, trapping thousands of pilgrims inside of the city. Trapped them inside of the city. Now it's just a waiting game. It's a waiting game. You're gonna run out of food. You're gonna run out of water. What did Jesus say that would happen inside the city? There would be pestilences breaking out. And there were pestilences. So I took it a step further. Mr. Google, tell me this. Tell me this, Mr. Google. How many were killed during 70 AD? According to the ancient historian Flavius Josephus, about 1.1 million Jews were killed during the Roman siege and destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, driven by famine and disease. The final military assault, an additional 95 to 97,000 people were taken captive, prisoners and slaves. What did Jesus tell his disciples in Matthew chapter 24? About pestilences and disease and famine. Why? Because they were under siege. The Roman army had them surrounded. There was nobody coming out and there was nobody going in. Eventually, you're going to run out of food. With that many people, guess why? Because they trapped them during the time they were having the feast of the Passover. So all the Jews from all around had came there to celebrate the feast of the Passover. This was what Jesus was killed during the Passover. So they were there for the festivities, so the numbers were exploded of people coming from all these surrounding nations to come into Jerusalem. So there was more than 1 million people inside of the city when this happened. They were all trapped. Now it's just a matter of waiting game. War broke out inside of the city that's recorded by Flavius Josephus in the War of the Jews. He explains what happened inside of the city. So this was a real event, happened in real time, it's recorded in history, just as Jesus told his disciples would happen. You see this temple? It's going to be destroyed. Not one brick left on top of another that shall not be thrown down. And that happened in 70 AD. I hope this is making sense to you. So let's look at parable number 4, the 10 virgins in Matthew 25, 1 through 13. The kingdom of heaven Then the kingdom of heaven will be compared to 10 virgins, the kingdom of heaven, the transition between the old covenant and the new covenant. Compared to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out and to meet the groom again. You got to read this book to understand what these wedding feasts were. This parable makes a whole lot. It opens your eyes to a whole new level of understanding when you understand how these weddings work. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were prudent. For when the foolish took their lamps, they did not take extra oil with them, but the prudent ones took oil in flasks with their lamps. Now, while the groom was delaying, they all became drowsy and began to sleep. But at midnight, there was finally a shout. Behold, the groom, come out and meet him. Then all those virgins got up and trimmed their lamps. But the foolish virgins said to the prudent ones, give us some of your oil because our lamps are out. However, the prudent ones answered, no, there must certainly would not be enough for us and you too. Go instead to the merchants and buy some for yourselves. But while they were on their way to buy oil, the groom came. And those who were ready went in with him to the wedding feast. And those who were ready, watch this, went in with him to the wedding feast. And the door was shut. Yet later the other virgins also came, saying, Lord, Lord, open up to us. But he answered, truly I say to you, I do not know you. Be on alert then, because you do not know the day nor the hour. You do not know, because during wedding feasts, nobody knew when the groom was going to show up. The groom would leave his bride and go prepare a place. Does that sound familiar? Jesus told his disciples, I will leave you and go prepare a place. Then what would happen is the groom would come back. Nobody knew when. Only the Father knew when. The groom himself did not know. Only the Father knew. That's the way weddings worked. This is why all of these things that Jesus says make sense when you understand this. No man knows the day or the hour. See, he didn't know. The groom did not know these things. It was the Father. It was always the Father. So when the Father said that the dwelling place was good enough, then it was ready. Then the groom came back for his bride. Nobody knew that except for the Father. So you had to be ready at all times. You see that? So when he came at any time of the day or night, you just had to be ready. That's the way weddings worked. So the foolish were the Christians that weren't prepared. They weren't prepared. He's taking too long. The wise were ready at all times. So when they went into the wedding and the wedding was shut, those foolish ones was left out. Remember in Matthew chapter 7, think it down as 21. Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name and did all these wonderful things in your name? He will say, I will say to them, depart from me, you workers of iniquity, for I never knew you. They were shut out. They were shut out. And then the parable of the mustard seed. This is eye-opening. This one is the one that really just boggles the mind when you understand it. And it's in Matthew 13, 31 and 32. He presented another parable to them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a person took and sowed in his field. And this is smaller than all other seeds, but when it is fully grown, it is larger than the garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the sky came and nest in its branches. Now, this is where I need you to really just focus in. And you really need to get the power of this parable. What he is describing here, he is not describing the transition between the two covenants. He is describing after the transition. The transition has already happened. We're in the new covenant now. This is what's going to happen in the new covenant. He says the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed. It started out small. It was tiny. Well, how many did Jesus start with? 12 disciples. He started the kingdom with 12 disciples. When the new covenant was established, there was 12 disciples that Jesus used to build the foundation. Today, it is 2026, August to be exact. And there are 2.3 billion Christians. It is the largest of all other religions, Christianity. What did Jesus just say? It is the smallest of the seeds, but when it is grown, it is the largest. Do you catch the power of that? The kingdom of heaven starts as the smallest seed, but it grows to be the largest. Christianity is the largest religion on planet Earth with 2.3 billion Christians. So we're not talking about the transition. We're talking about the nature of the kingdom itself. Now, there's something here. I have to show you this. Let me pull up my handy schmandy. Let's go blue. Okay, that's fine. That'll work. So Jesus says that it would be the smallest of the seed, but it would grow to be the largest. And right now there are two, if I can draw a 2 billion. Now, here's why this is important. And you have to catch the power of this. So we're taught as Christians, I was taught, you're likely taught as well, that Jesus is going to return one day. He's going to rapture the church out of here. Then there's going to be destruction and devastation, in which the parables itself tells you that's not true. Because if that was true, if there's not going to be any Christians here, or none of God's people, none of Jesus's people, when the destruction happens, what's the purpose of the warning? What am I warning you against something that's not going to even affect you? That makes no sense in and of itself. But nonetheless, that's a video for another day. We are taught that we're going to be raptured out of here, and that all the devastation and destruction is going to happen. Jesus is going to come back. He's going to reign for 1,000 years. And then after the 1,000 years, nobody has been able to articulate what happens then. Just haven't had a articulate argument about what happens after the 1,000 years, presuming there is 1,000 years, which ain't true. It's in and of itself, but that's another story. But once that happens, everything is all is said and done. There is X amount of Christians, and there's going to be nothing else. No childbirth, no, nothing. Any of that, nothing. But in this parable, Jesus is saying that the kingdom of heaven is going to experience growth. He says when it is fully grown. How is there going to be growth if we're taught there's no childbearing? How can there be growth in the kingdom if there's no childbearing? You see that? Do you see that? I think it's time for us to re-examine what we've been taught. And not only re-examine it with an open mind. Is it true? Does it hold water? Does it hold weight? Can it hold up under the weight of Scripture itself? Because and here's why I encounter this a lot. I just do. People are automatically on defense when you're telling them something that flies in the face of what they already believe. That's fine that you believe that, but the question is, are you willing to transition if what you believe isn't true? Are you willing to drop it and embrace the truth if it proves that what you believe isn't true? I am. Any Christian should be, because at any given time, we can all be wrong. None of us are perfect. I can be wrong just like you can be wrong. Prove to me how I'm wrong, and I am willing to accept the truth. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to accept the truth if the truth proves that what you currently believe is incorrect? Or are you one of those people who say, I am a Christian, nonetheless, I ain't changing what I believe. I don't care what you present to me. I think that's a reasonable question to answer. So I hope that helps. Don't forget to look in the description to find a link to the book, The Jewish World That Jesus Made. And it just opens our eyes to the culture itself of the new covenant, the world that Jesus lived in when he walked on earth. Understanding the weddings, understanding the feast, understanding the customs, it helps us understand some of the things that we read in the New Testament. It just opens our eyes and takes us to a whole nother level of understanding. So I hope that helps. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.